Well, here we are again, and this is my next podcast on surviving betrayal. Depression. I wouldn't talk about depression. You might not notice you've got depression when you first are betrayed. It's a really weird thing, but I think because there's the anger, the hurt, you've got anxiety, you've got fear, then you've got all your mental worry because you don't know what to do with this relationship now, and you don't know how you're going to salvage it. You might not realise that underneath all that is depression. And it's really, really depressing when you get betrayed. And I want you to keep an eye on it because it's something that can be happening to you and you don't actually feel it because you've got so many other feelings and they're so huge and they're so in the front of you that underneath all this, you're just really depressed. It's a good thing to actually acknowledge it now, how depressed you are, and how depressed you're going to continue to be. I'm sorry, I'd love to say something wonderful like you're going to feel better. But I think when you start letting go of the fear and the anger, the hurt, the anxiety, all these things, you'll actually still have the depression, but you might not notice it. Now, depression, I know that sounds really weird, but it isn't always a feeling. When you have all those other feelings, you might still have some kind of feeling of depression, but you might not feel it. It's more like how you feel about your lifestyle. It'll be that you feel more tired, you can't be bothered, you've lost interest in anything, you just really can't be, And because of that, you just lose your kind of will. Like everything's broken, your whole relationship now has been destroyed from your point of view, and you're brokenhearted. And yes, you are depressed about it, but more than that, you're really suffering from depression. Many people who are betrayed don't talk about this. They're really talking about those top emotions. But underneath all those emotions, you'll be really depressed and you'll feel like everything in your life has been turned upside down now and what you thought was good now isn't good. The other aspect is that if you were in a happy relationship with that person, whether they be a partner, family member, friend, or even a business partner, and it was a happy, amicable relationship and you were having fun and laughing and it was so happy and you thought they were happy and you were happy, when you find out about betrayal, you're not going to be happy anymore. And now you don't feel happy and you're going to be really depressed. Get help if you need it. You can go to your doctor, you can get professional help, you can take different sorts of natural and pharmaceutical meds. Try to nurture yourself. If you're depressed, you're going to feel really bad. Things that help are maybe doing things that you can manage to do. You might lose interest in a lot of your hobbies and really going out and being with other people. And while that's happening and you're feeling that depressed, try and get other things that make you happy. For example, try and eat something you actually like because your appetite might go as well. And you might be finding that you're not sleeping properly anymore. You keep waking up. And waking up, I think at 3 or 4 in the morning, they say is a sign of depression. But I think not being able to sleep in general is a sign of depression. Have a look at that and see what you can do to make it a bit nicer. Play your favourite movie. Listen to music that you really like. Buy yourself something on the internet. If you possibly can, go to a place that you find is beautiful. You are going to feel like this. You have to just sort of add nice things to your life. That's what you want to do, is actually have something in the day, even if it's today I'm having a coffee and a piece of my favourite cake, and that's the highlight of the day, well, then that's the highlight of the day. Or if the highlight of the day is just being in the garden and planting some seeds or planting some roses out, that's your highlight of the day. You were getting a lot of your happiness from the relationship. That's where it came from. And now you don't really have that relationship. You don't know what you've got now. You've got this person you don't really know, and you're not sure maybe what you're going to do. And there's high possibility you're not going to be with them anymore, and that's going to be really painful for you, and you're going to miss them. Because just because they betrayed you doesn't mean you don't love them anymore. See, this is what people don't understand. They think if someone betrays you, instantly you don't love them anymore. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. You might not feel the same sometimes, but underneath all that clutter, you still love them. And you will probably continue to love them as you saw them, not this new person who's turned up. The repression will be quite deep, and it will take time to go, particularly if there's now going to be a split in the relationship, because that's really another aspect of the depression. So you have, they betrayed you, you get depressed, then you might not be with them anymore, or you have a separation, then that's depressing. And then you need to start a new life in terms of your friendship, or moving around the things with your partner now if you're not going to be with them, and then all the mess that comes with that if you're living together, and then divorce or just separation, and then you have to move in or out. I know this podcast sounds somewhat like I'm being negative. I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just trying to be really honest with you, because people don't talk about the depression. They just see you as an angry aunt talking about the betrayal, or sitting there crying broken-hearted. But they don't realize underneath all that, you're now in a state of depression. But your lifestyle isn't a happy lifestyle now. And to lose your best friend, or that your business partner, and then your business is destroyed, these are really depressing things. And these are very high on the top of the stresses. I've got this list where, you know, what's the highest stress and the worst thing that can happen to you. And these are getting pretty high up there in the top 2 or 3. All I can say to you is that it will pass and you can come through it. But during the time when you're feeling depressed, don't give yourself a hard time. If you don't want to go to the party because you're too depressed, you don't have to go to the party. If you don't want to answer the phone, you don't have to. If you don't want to answer the text right now, you don't have to. You have to be aware that you can't scare other people, because if you're a person who's always answered back, you just go, not feeling good, catch you later. You can do that if you like, or just send a little heart or something. You don't have to speak. But you need to do what you need to do, because they're not hurting like you, and they're not heartbroken like you, and they're not depressed like you are. The depression will start coming as soon as you find out about the betrayals. It'll depress you. And then as you go along, you'll actually even get perhaps a deeper depression when reality starts to kick in, and you're either not seeing the person, or you're now trying to work out what to do in the relationship. It's kind of depressing. And it's also depressing telling people, because if you're going to be honest about it, it's not only shameful to you, even though it's not really your shame, and humiliating, it's really depressing, because the subject's not good. Talking to other people will be depressing, and even if you go into therapy and talk, you might find that kind of depressing too, that you have to go to the doctor and get meds, or go into therapy for a while because you're not coping. You're not really supposed to be coping. That's what I realised. It's like a life-changing thing, and it's very traumatic. Being betrayed has a traumatic element to it, so you might actually land up with PTSD from it. It's common. People don't talk about this either, but that also has the depression element to it, and you might want to look up PTSD and what symptoms are, and you might be very surprised to find that you have many of those symptoms. You don't have to go to a war zone to come out and have PTSD. You can just live in the normal world, and some situation or some person can actually give it to you. The way you deal with your depression is totally up to you. Go down the route that works for you, and remember, it will be something you'll use for a while, and then as you get more used to it and you start to heal from it all, it will start to lift. If you know how to do tapping, and you know how to do some of the self-hypnosis, and if you meditate, and you can try and release the depression and let it go, do that. Just acknowledge it. Know that you're in a depressive state now, and acknowledge it. You can get really severely depressed by this, particularly if you've had a number of betrayals throughout your life. This one might just be the one that knocks you over, and that's why you also need to be careful that one betrayal is going to knock you over, but having had a lifetime of betrayals, you might start to really be very, very affected by this. The depression will usually sit around your heart, and you can actually feel it sometimes, and on the top of your head. It's always in your mind. And so when you're doing a tapping, that's the places you want to think to get rid of it. So it'll be your mind and your heart and your crown, which is the top of your head, that crown chakra, if you know about the chakras. And that's where you want to let it go, and just keep letting it go and letting it go and letting it go. Some people also use acupuncture. They find that helps with the depression, and also the anxiety that it's actually with it, and the worry, because acupuncture and the meridians, they work on the emotions as well. Use anything you can to help yourself to make it less painful and make it less depressing, and try to be a bit mindful. So if you're in a moment and you're with your friend and you're having a good laugh and eating pizza, or you're with some children and they're running around and you're playing with the children, try to actually be there for a while so you can feed your soul with some happiness, because there are many other things that are happy in the world, but underneath you'll probably be feeling very depressed. Well, this is a very depressing podcast, I suppose, but I really felt strongly that I needed to talk to you about this because people don't talk about it, and people don't recognise that people who have been betrayed, especially by their partner, they and then have to split up, perhaps they're actually going to be in a state now of depression. And if you've got a friend also who's being betrayed, then maybe you'll understand that they're actually depressed and might even have PTSD, and maybe that way you can help them more and you might even alert them to it. So this podcast is for you, but it might be also for someone that you know that goes through a similar experience. Get help with your depression. You can't do anything about having it, but you can use a lot of modalities to try and help you with it. And you'll know what the things are, which path you want to take. And you can use multiple paths. You can go medical and Western. You can also go Eastern medicine. Do whatever works. Find what works. But I strongly suggest that you Google tapping, and you also learn how to tap, emotional freedom tapping it's called, and use that as a modality, because they've actually found that when people did it, they had like one research I read was like 80 or 90% success rate to get rid of depression. But it's going to be there. So now you have to face it. And it wasn't your fault probably, but you're going to have to try and make your life better. And you can come into a place of happiness, but depression is an energy. Depression is a heavy energy, and if you look at it, it's a little bit like a big black cloud over the top of your head now. So you want to like try and get rid of that black cloud. I hope you can find some peace with this. There are so many emotions when you get betrayed, and this is one of the underlying ones that I want you to work on as well. Don't miss it, because you can do all the others and then spend years being actually depressed and not realising how depressed you are. I hope you have a good week, and I hope you're starting to heal. And my heart really goes out to you, because this is one of those things in life that unless you've experienced it, you can't understand how terrible it can be in your life and how it affects you so much. So I'm sending you lots of love and lots of healing.